Thank you, everyone. And I'm sorry about that audio delay. It seems like every time we have an internet meeting now, there's something going on. But thank you for having us, and we're really proud to be here today. You know, Motorola is a strong advocate of APCO and certainly in California. So thanks for having us. We have a number of people from Motorola on the phone, and we hope to give you a brief overview of what Motorola is today and some of our features that we want to highlight within this presentation. So, of course, now probably this is what the Bay Bridge has been looking at this year, but we want to just go over today's Motorola. Many of you may not know what we've done in the past year or two, and just give you a brief overview on that. We're going to get into our real-time situational awareness software, and then talk about our APX next generation radios, and then to our personal accountability features within that radio system. And then we'll leave some time at the end for some Q&A. So as I talked about before, the current Motorola focus is that situational ecosystem, which allows public safety agencies to bring all of that data into one central spot and have it work with each other, which we've been doing over the years as technology's evolved so quickly. A lot of the agencies are what you see on the left-hand side of your screen. They have those systems. Sometimes they speak well with each other. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's interfaces. Sometimes there are not. And Motorola, what we're really trying to focus on is bringing all the public safety devices and solutions and software together so they work seamlessly. And in this, as we talk about that, your investment, let's say your investment in your land mobile radio system and all the features that that system's capable of, but how does it tie into your computer-aided dispatch system, your records management system? And now with so many devices and cameras out in our communities, how can you tie in that information to help you respond to an incident more efficiently? Next generation 911, that a citizen can now submit a photograph over the 911 call and allow you to seamlessly integrate that into your computer-aided dispatch system, send it out to the first responders when they're en route to the scene to help them respond to the incident more efficiently and hopefully keep our communities safer as they do that. And I'll just give you a couple quick examples. What if a citizen observes an accident and one of the driver flees on foot, then the citizen calls 911? From our next generation 911 solutions, where you can immediately get that information, that caller's location, and seamlessly put that in your computer-aided dispatch screen without having to touch multiple keyboards and mices. That next generation, as I mentioned before, now has the ability to submit photos or videos over the 911 system if your agency allows it. Then use that data to push out to the first responders, fire, police, local EMS, to give them more data to help them respond to the incident. Then use all the devices I mentioned in your community, cameras. You might have a camera at a 7-Eleven or a traffic camera on a light pole that you can start using that data while you're responding to an incident to help that response. Hopefully catch the bad guy if it's a crime, or more efficiently respond to an incident if it's fire or EMS related. Then you have analytics within that camera that if you have multiple cameras within your community, now there's analytics to alert you for something that's unusual, or it detects an object that isn't normal, for instance, a rifle, someone walking into school with a rifle. Then using your body-worn video or in-car cameras to tie back into your system so you get a real-time situational awareness. And again, another example is an officer on foot patrol. Let's say he's on foot patrol, he's available on the screen, but he's ambushed by gunfire. They push their emergency button. That push of the button does a number of things. One, it alerts the dispatchers that there's an emergency, and two, now with mapping and in the locationing on a radio, whether it be the land mobile radio or LTE, now you know the location of that officer or firefighter. And as we talk about that, then that also opens a priority talk. So now that officer that could be injured now has priority over all the other responders so he can give out critical information. This is all part of what we call the Motorola ecosystem. It's centered by Command Central, where we have our devices, our land mobile radios, smartphones, all could be connected to LTE. And then everything from community engagement all the way to jail management and everything in between. I think the biggest change in the last couple of years is the ability to connect these systems together and have them seamlessly work with a push of a button. We have a saying in Motorola, eyes up, hands free. So this is not only the case for police or fire in the field, but also for dispatchers in the center, that they want to touch one mouse, one keyboard to process that call. And now with situational awareness data, IoT devices, video, sensors, and alarms. Now you can get into real-time data analysis to help those responding officers or firefighters. And when we bring all that data together, we go right into what we call a consolidated incident record view. So all that data you're collecting, the digital evidence management, those 911 recordings, the reports that officer firefighters write, now can be collected and all viewed in one central spot. So with that, I want to just show a video of our situational awareness platform, which you call Command Central Aware. Here's a screenshot of it, but I'll go into a recording of it and we'll walk through a scenario just so you can see how it is working. Can you see the screen okay? The mapping?
Yes. Yeah, looks good.
Okay, thanks, Gordon. Yeah, so you'll see this, we'll go through this, but I'll just point out some features as it happens. So in this video, or in the screen you're looking at, it's really 4 components which can be brought out over multiple screens. You have the mapping component, which puts just about every piece of data that you can possibly collect on a map. And like most Google Maps or Esri Maps, you can turn layers on and off. The video recording up in the upper right-hand side, video viewers. And don't just think of a video management system you might have. You can ingest several different videos into this. And then the event area down in the lower left, where you can bring in your CAD calls, your alarms, your sensors, your video analytics, and give you all the details you would normally see in a CAD environment. And then you can also bring in an MC7500 radio console within it. So as I play this video, or we play through a scenario here, you'll notice that an emergency alert came in the radio console. Typically what it would do would say, Officer Smith, if the radio's registering, alerted as emergency button. We're not showing it on the screen at this point, but you also have the ability to overlay that on a map. So now you know the location of that firefighter officer requested help and push that button. Typically before, they knew they asked for help or they pushed that button, but they didn't know where they were located. So as we zoom in on a map, we're going to do a scenario in the Cal State Sacramento area where it's on campus. In this case, we're going to just demonstrate how you can map 911 callers, you can map the location of a call, you can bring other data, you can show the AVL of a fire apparatus or a police car, and then now with radio location, now if an officer's on foot, horseback, bicycle, you can also track that resource also. And as we do that, any alert that comes up, you'll notice it'd be a 911 or ALPR hit or location hit. So in this case, we just received a 911 call, and you can color code it if it's a landline or wireless call. This caller is reporting that there's a structure fire on campus at that Riverside Hall. The data is coming in, as you can see. So not only do you see that caller on a map, but you see the anti-alley and all the information coming in from your 911 system. As the dispatcher gets that information, yeah.
I'm still just seeing your slide deck.
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry, hold on.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay, thank you for telling me. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Okay, are we seeing this now, Clint?
Yep, you bet.
Yep. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, everyone. So as I mentioned before, the scenario is a person reporting a structure fire on the campus of the campus at UC Sacramento. In this case, the caller information comes up on the map. You know where that caller is located. As I mentioned before, you can color code the phone color to say if it's a landline or wireless. The data comes up, such as Annie Alley. Below, the person calling the dispatcher now is reporting a fire at Riverside Hall, which is one of the buildings there. So immediately, this data is being processed by the dispatcher. Now we see a second call coming in, which has a rapid SOS connection to that. So this is a wireless caller that is reporting a person suspicious and that they are possibly starting the fires. They're running through the campus right now. So now the dispatcher is getting additional information. Again, the 911 anti-alley is coming up. As they process that data, now it's a police and fire call. So fire is responding, the police are responding. The analysts looking at this, and agencies are either using this as a dispatch setting, they're using it in what they call real-time operations center, real-time crime center. And they can process this information in addition to what they're seeing on their CAD and 911 systems, but this brings in all the others. So for instance, if you had cameras on campus, whether it be in a building or outside, you can bring up those camera views as you're seeing in the upper right-hand area. As we get additional information that processes this, the CAD incident's put in. Now we show there's a fire incident. It overlays on top of the map. You can look up the data that's coming in. So dispatchers typing information, structure fire, where the location's at. That automatically is being dispatched to the fire units, and as the police are responding, you can zoom out of the map and show different layers within it and see where your equipment's coming in. So for an on-scene incident commander, you can use this as a situational awareness where your units are. In this case, we see another call popped up where another person is reporting that the person starting the fire is now running across a bridge across the American River there into a housing area next to the university. So again, the data that's coming in from 911 is being processed. And as the user is trying to see where their resources are, in this case, you can see the fire engines leaving the scene of their fire station responding to the incident. We also show radio subscribers, Officer Jones and Officer Ginn. Again, they're in the area. And then as we're pointing out that you can turn on multiple layers within the map, so you can bring a traffic layer in. If you had weather coming through, you can overlay weather. But in this case, since the suspect's running across the bridge into an area, we know Officer Ginn is in the area, so the analyst or dispatcher has that information in front of them, where their resources are, how it can aid in apprehending this. One of the best things about this in my mind is that now you know where that wireless caller is. Oftentimes callers don't know what bridge they're on, or they're just describing the area, and sometimes it's difficult to find them. But in this case, we know exactly where that caller is. And then if the caller is moving, in this case, they're following the suspect, they can keep an eye on the suspect, and the call taker or analyst looking at this can know exactly where that caller is and translate the information they have coming through. I'm going to speed up a little bit. As information is coming in, again, the features you see in a map, if you had floor plans on the campus, or if you had other data like a pre-planned information, all that can be overlaid on this map and immediately brought up to the first responders and people within the dispatch center or the users of that. And as I mentioned before, in this case, we have a camera that's on a building but overlooks the bridge, using bridge traffic. So you can get the additional information of that caller going across the bridge. Now you can start using your camera views to zoom in to see if you can see this suspect. We often find agencies having apartment complexes or local businesses or campuses, universities, primary schools saying, hey, we have a great video system. We'd like to share this camera with you. But a lot of agencies don't know how to process when they have 100 to 200, 300 cameras coming in. It's very difficult. In this case, what Command Central Aware allows you to do is bring in multiple camera systems in one central location. You can plot them on a map so you know if you have a camera view in that area, and it aids in your response. So I know we had a little delay coming in, but we're just going to point out the features of as I mentioned, the video. And as you look at the video, not only can you capture it in real time, but if you see the suspect running, you can take a screenshot of that video. You can then automatically save that information into a digital evidence management system with the right click of a button. So not only are you collecting this evidence or this possible data, that now you can store that data immediately without having to upload it and then download it and move it to another device. This all allows you to keep this information within that ecosystem I was talking about earlier, so it's seamless, and it goes in with the other evidence that you're collecting for this incident. So I will stop there. Let me go back to my my screen. And then I'm going to hand it over to my partner, Andy, who's going to discuss our APX Next portfolio. Andy?
All right, I forgot to take it off mute. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know, we are in the communications business, so we want to make sure we can always get our radio comms out plainly, clearly to everybody in the field. So thanks, Dave. What we're going to talk about today is our newest addition to our APX Next portfolio. It is our APX Next XE. And as you can see here, it is more of our targeted towards more of our firefighting community. But again, much like our other APX XEs, it's really anybody who's using gloved operations. So cold weather kind of stuff can make use of this device. So like up to last year, this is what our portfolio looked like. You know, we had our APX 8000 all band GPS capable TDMA, FDMA, APX 6000 single band radios down to our 4000s and our APX 1000s and 900s that are, you know, targeted more for our Department of Public Works and maybe not frontline first responders, but supporting agencies. And then we had our complement of mobiles that's, you know, in the same kind of vein, all band mobiles all the way down to, you know, supporting agency radios. But so now what we're doing is we're bringing out this brand new APX Next XE that is targeted again for that gloved operation for that fire market, but has all the benefits of the Next platform, which we're going to cover in a little bit. So Dave, you could play that video. Let's see if it plays with its audio.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys could kind of hear the music, but if not, what you saw on the screen as it's kind of going through is it's a purpose-built device, the APX Next XE. It's a purpose-built device for first responders, for fire and gloved operation. There's a number of features in there that we believe are going to aid you in your operations out in the field. First and foremost, so we have our quad chart here. First and foremost, the APX Next XE, although it might look like a cellular style device, it's still a public safety grade radio. It's still mission critical. It is a P25 radio first and foremost. But what we're doing is we're bringing in some additional capabilities in terms of LTE integration into the device itself. Yes. We'll cover how we interface with the radio in a little bit. Was there a question? Okay. The other thing we're doing, again, you know, we talked about, we're providing access to that intelligence that Dave just talked about. The ability to, you know, see where locations are, to be able to, you know, look at a video clip or look at a picture, that NG911 stuff, that is something that we're using LTE to deliver out to the field using the APX Next XE. And then the other thing is we are using LTE and Wi-Fi to program these radios. So you don't need to have your hands on the device any longer to be able to continue to keep it updated, update the firmware, update its code plug. And really, we're just trying to make sure that the devices that you procure and they're used in the field are out in the field supporting the first responders as much as possible. Okay, so this is kind of just a real quick snapshot of what the Next XE looks like. As you can see, there's a lot of similarities, say, between an APX 8000 or 6000 XE and an APX Next XE. Control tops are very, very similar. Oh, wow. We're trying to make sure that we still have our exaggerated controls. So if you're for gloved operation, it's a lot easier to get down and change that channel knob or hit that emergency button with gloves on than maybe with the standard APX Next. The side button controls are all kind of the same. So again, the idea is, you know, you have muscle memory on how to use our APX radios, we're continuing that muscle memory through to the new device. What you'll see that is different is things like the touchscreen display. So we can go and change channels and be able to manage that radio just by touching the display, even through gloved hands. The other thing that we can do that's not on here that we can't see or can't demonstrate quite yet, but is something called our Vicky voice control, where we actually can hit a button, talk to the radio, and have the radio respond to our commands. So Dave, you go ahead for one more slide. The other thing that we launched to complement the brand new APX Next XE is the XVE 500 RSM. This is our fire-rated lapel mic. It's rated for 500 degrees of heat exposure for up to 5 minutes. Yeah, it's still IP68.
Change the boot, and I'm like,
excuse me, if you're, could you mute your mic, please? Thanks. So the thing about the XVE 500 RSM, again, it is fire rated, the glove controls. We have a strobe light on it that, you know, when you hit your emergency button, lets you strobe out. And it also still has that adaptive audio engine that you may be familiar with our XE 500 RSM. So regardless of where you're positioning this lapel mic on your body, if you get wet or hosed down out in the field with some water, we don't have to worry about compromising the operation of the mic, and we're still getting a good, clear audio out from the fire scene to dispatch of incident command. Go ahead, Dave. So we're not going to get into the full demonstration I normally would do, but just keep in mind, again, this APX Next radio is as top as any of the other radios that Motorola makes, even though it has this large touchscreen display on it. We still are using our Gorilla Glass capability, or Gorilla Glass display here. So this is scratch resistant, impact resistant. It's still submersible in water. It's IP68, and for us that means 2 meters for 4 hours, completely submersible. And one thing I will call out, even if you do maybe damage this front display and not able to, say, activate it, that doesn't mean the radio itself is compromised. You can still talk on your LMR system without any issue. The APX Next XE is an ultra-connected radio. So for us, what that means is it supports all bands, VHF, UHF, range 1, range 2, and 7800. We can still do everything from our analog conventional to 3600 trunking all the way up to TDMA. So this is a fully operational P25 device, but what we've added to it is the capability of supporting LTE at the same time. So for us, what that means is you can be out in the field communicating on the radio, on your P25 system. We're using that LTE backbone to be able to transmit your GPS coordinates or programming information or something like that without impacting your voice calls whatsoever. We also support Wi-Fi in this device. So again, if you want to be able to program via Wi-Fi or LTE, we have that capability. Now within the radio itself, we still support our dual microphone noise cancellation. The new radios use digital mics, so we have better call clarity. We have basically a higher and lower ends of the ability of voice inputs. So if you're yelling into the mic, you're whispering to the mic, we're still getting nice, clean audio out to your supporting partners. And then one of the other things that we have is the ability to have the radio itself, if we set the volume at a certain volume, to have it try to bring up a low talker or bring down a high talker. So we're not riding that volume knob all the time throughout the day. Next slide, Dave. So I'm just going to talk very quickly about the battery. So the standard battery on an APX Next XE is a 14-hour battery. We do have a high-capacity battery that's about 18 hours. So the idea, again, is that for your standard operating procedure, most people normally operate 12 to 14 hours. That's covered in our standard battery. But if you need to get deployed, say for a wildfire or a longer-term deployment, we do have a high-cap battery that you can use for that operation. And using the high-cap battery is just take it on and take it off, just like on our APX 8000. Next slide, Dave. So we're just going to continue to kind of talk about the interface a little bit. Again, I mentioned the fact that we have our standard heart controls. We have our touchscreen display. The other thing we can do is we can use our voice control. So this is really important. I feel like if you have this radio inside a parka or in turnout gear and you want to still be able to use a lapel mic to maybe change a channel or more importantly, change a volume or something like that, what we can really do is just talk to the radio and say things like battery. So if you could hear that, maybe you couldn't, what I'll do is I'll raise the volume. Volume 8. So we can change the volumes, we can change the audio profiles, we can switch between like a loud audio profile and a standard audio profile, change channels, change zones, just by hitting this Vicky button on the front, telling the radio what we wanted to do, and it'll respond to that command. So go ahead. We can kind of just skip through these a little bit, but again, we're maintaining our physical heart controls just like we did before. Again, so we're maintaining that usage of that muscle memory that we have. Okay, and then, like I said, there's 14 different commands that we can use to drive the radio. The one important thing I'm going to mention is you can use natural speech. It doesn't have to be exactly said the same way all the time. You can say things like change channel, what's my channel, and the radio will understand what you're talking about. Next slide.
Hey,
So
Andy,
this-
can I mention
go ahead,
real
Dave.
quick?
Sure.
Just real quick on the voice controls for law enforcement users out there, they're also working on query. So in addition to controlling your radio, now they're working on the ability to say I'm on scene of an incident, or you can do a query. If I would check David Wilson wants some warrants with a certain DOB, then Vicky will read those queries back to you. So that's in development now. It's very, very slick, the early versions of it.
I'll say, I don't know if I said this earlier, but the radio is a standalone device, but to Dave's point, it's the seamless integration between this edge device and the systems that we have to support your operations that really makes a lot or brings a lot of value to the table. So that ability to be able to tell the radio that, hey, I'm on scene, and have our CAD systems reflect that for the dispatcher, streamlining operations makes things simpler for both ends of the communication. And really, again, I think I'll keep saying it brings a lot of value to your operations out in the field. Well, one feature we're going to talk about right now is just something called Smart Connect. And that very simply is just, if we're starting to roll them out of LMR coverage, what we can actually do is have the radio seamlessly route your voice traffic out over either Verizon or FirstNet, those two LTE data networks, back up to a secure cloud infrastructure, and then back into your system. So from the radio, from the user perspective, they really are just roaming from a normal trunk site to another trunk site. So the call quality is the same, capabilities in terms of dynamic regrouping, GPS tracking all continues to be the same with no manual intervention on the user's part. The other thing that we can do, and Dave kind of showed how we're able to track people, but one of the things we can do is we can, again, take that LTE capability that's in the radio to transmit our GPS coordinates. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to load more of the data-driven operations onto the high-speed data network and maintain that P25 system is really helping us support that critical voice. And by doing that, we can get much better GPS location or resolution because we're able to transit much more data from each radio to the system. So that ability to track that radio on that aware screen that Dave said is a capability that's in all of our APX Next devices.
And Andy, I'll point out that's configurable too. So we had a case where if you had some narcotics detectives carrying this radio, they wouldn't want to be tracked. So that's configurable within the system. But yet when they go do a search warrant and then they want to be tracked, they can go back into that mode.
Exactly. And again, these are software-driven devices and they're extremely customizable. So to Dave's point, if you had a narcotics unit that maybe, or a narcotics unit that maybe didn't want everyone knowing where they were at all times, you could, within the radio itself, go in and turn off GPS and turn it back on, or you could do it from the system side. It really is just dependent upon how you want to configure something. The other thing we can do is, I'll show you over here on this device, is we have a new feature called Smart Mapping. And what that really does is it takes that mobile intelligence that Dave just kind of talked about from the Command Central Aware, and we can now start mapping not only our location of our devices, but the location of other devices in our areas of operation. So I'm kind of zoom out and may not be able to see it, but these are all the APX Next devices that are currently in operation, say in the Midwest where I am right now. What we're allowing our
should we be seeing something? We're just seeing a static slide right now. And Andy, it sounds like you're referring to.
Oh, I thought my video camera was up.
No.
Let me see if there's a way I can share my video camera. I can't. In any case, what we're able to do is we're actually able to show the location of the APX Next devices on the screen of the APX Next. And as a result, you can, if you're an incident commander, you can see all your units. We even have a new enhancement where we can actually ask where a unit is. So you can ask, where is unit 2 Bravo 3? And it will give you the street address of where that device is. So if you're an incident commander, you can know how far away people are. Next slide, please, Dave. And very quickly, one of the things we're able to do is Dave talked about getting that information, that video into your command center. With smart messaging, what we can do now is take that video and we can take a clip of it, or we can ingest an NG911 call where someone sent a picture of a suspect or a missing child, and we can redistribute that out to all the APX Next videos or APX Next devices that are in the field. So again, just kind of bringing that information out to the edge. And then the last little thing we're going to talk about is just smart programming. That's very simply just how we're able to keep the radios updated in the field. So using LTE or Wi-Fi, we can actually push out the code plug, the firmware of the radio, or add features all over the air. So again, we're not making anyone bring a radio in anymore back into the radio shop to get updated. We can do it out in the field, minimizing downtime of the end users. Next slide, Dave. And then the last new feature we have just released or just announced is something called touchless key provisioning. And as we all know, encryption is becoming more and more important in our public safety communications. So one of the things we're doing now is we can essentially preload keys into your APX Next device, and then take those same OTAR keys and then push them out to your KMF, your key management facility. So what this means is we no longer have to touch each device with one of our key variable loaders to add in the encryption keys and enable it on your key management facility for OTAR operations. So again, we're just trying to minimize the amount of time the device has to come in and be managed, and maximizing the amount of time that it's on an officer's hip or in a firefighter's hands. Next slide, Dave. And then we also just announced a new feature called Smart Insight. So these devices are becoming more and more like a computer, a small, ultra rugged computer. We're trying to make sure that we are able to manage them essentially like a computer. So now we're able to do things like check battery statuses, check the firmware, check if there's any operating issues on the device side. And then that allows us to build reports that we can create and make an act or create a report to make an intelligent decision about either making a change to the radio fleet or potentially even your system if you wanted to. Next slide, Dave. So, and I want to make sure I have enough time for Mark to be able to talk about accountability. APX accountability is a new feature that we're launching on the APX Next this year. And that's the reason why I'm talking about that is, these devices are not stagnant. We're continuing to add features and capabilities at all times. So you're making an investment in this platform, but we're going to continue to invest in the platform so that you guys can still get or be able to use new features, new services as we roll them out. Again, it's a purpose-built device, ultra rugged, but extremely customizable. And with that, I'd like to bring Mark in to talk about our accountability suite.
Thanks, Andy. Yep, next slide, Dave. All right, so personal accountability is another tool in the toolbox. Andy highlighted a lot of the features and capabilities of our devices, particularly the APX Next, and Dave talked about the solutions available at the dispatch center to give situational awareness. This one's a little bit more of a focused tool to be able to give incident commanders a little bit more management and control over their personnel in the field. It's largely targeted for the fire market, but we do have a lot of interest from law enforcement as well in saying that, I get to the scene of the incident, and I just need to know how many responders am I dealing with, and ideally what their status is. And so we know for a fact in the fire service, there's a lot of times where that's a very challenging thing to do from an incident command perspective. And so being able to identify how many resources are on the scene and what their status is the challenge. All right, go ahead to the next slide, Dave. So what this looks like is it's very tied in with our radio systems and our radios. And we're basically using the portable radio as the accountability tool for the responders. And so pretty much every fire department and obviously every law enforcement agency out there today puts a radio on every responder. And so we're able to leverage the power of their radio system to be able to use that as an extension of the incident commander to manage their resources on the scene. And fire today in particular pretty much operates in one of two ways, either on a P25 trunked radio system or in what we call conventional mode or simplex operation. And so this feature can work in both modes of communications. It operates either on the fireground channel itself or on the trunked radio system, and it's working behind the scenes. These are data transmissions that are coming out of the radio that filter into an accountability application used by the incident commander, or it can be run at the dispatch center and allow them to be able to have a set of eyes on how many responders they have with them working at the incident scene and what their status is, and a whole lot of capability leveraged in on top of that. So architecturally, this is how it works. Feature-wise, what we're able to do is get a lot of data now that's able to be filtered up to the incident commander and give them a better idea of what's going on with their responders. Starting with the radio boxes in the upper left, the gray ones, we could tell, you know, who's carrying this radio. Are they on the fireground channel? What unit are they associated with? Oh, go back up, sorry. Down, yep, there you go. And, you know, what are their assignments? We know when they key the radio, we'll be able to see if they're, who's actually talking now. If they hit the orange emergency button, we know who's calling a mayday, because all this information is going right to the application on the incident commander's laptop at the incident scene. We could tell if a responder's changed channels to a different fireground channel. Is their radio even still on, or if they've turned it off? We can monitor their battery power. We could tell if they're still in range of the system. And for fire, in particular, they have a feature or roll calls. We could send out those roll calls and tell, you know, immediately who are all the responders that responded to the roll call. And we could run timers on a group by group basis, so we know how long it's been since we gave them an assignment and did they accomplish that assignment. All right, next slide. On the outbound side, we can ping the radios to verify they're still in range. We could send out evacuate, roll call, or any one of 16 customizable tactical alerts out to the radios. And I'll show you here in a brief demo how that works. And in addition, we can actually send messages to the radios and switch the responder's radio from one talk group to another, because it's a common occurrence, unfortunately, on the incident scene where they show up to the incident and they don't go to the right fireground channel. And now we have the power to be able to switch that on the responder's radio without having to contact them, and now they're on the right fireground channel. And so now what I'd like to do is I'm going to transition to my computer here and give you an actual demonstration of how that software works on the computer screen. So allow me to share my screen. And I'm going to now launch the accountability software. And so the software is actually developed by a company called Systems Definition, a partner of Motorola's. We've been partnering with them for over 10 years on our accountability solution. So what you see here is a blank screen of what the accountability software looks like. I have some Apex radios on my desk here with me. These happen to be Apex 6000s. And so Andy pointed out that Apex Next XC will support accountability next quarter. We've had this capability actually available in our Apex radios since the beginning of Apex. So Apex 8000s, 7000s, 6000s, and 4000s all support this capability today. And so you can do this right now with your existing Apex radios, put this feature in, and it leverages right into the existing communications that's used on the incident scene. So I've got 4 radios that I've turned on here and gone to my fireground channel, white fireground. 1 radio is associated with the driver for truck 113, 2 radios associated with engine 114, and the firefighter 2 radio associated with engine truck 11. And so I can now at a glance see how many responders I have with me on the incident scene. And now I could start to manage the status of those responders. And so if they key up the radio, I get an indication on there that who's the firefighter that's talking now, and be able to say, all right, someone just got on the radio and called for help. Who was that? I can see on the screen who it was that keyed the radio. If they hit the orange emergency button, I get an indication right away on the incidents, the accountability screen. So now I'm not waiting for dispatch to get it at the console and then call back down to the incident commander that there's been a mayday activated. I get that immediately on my computer screen. If they change to a different fireground channel, So for instance, firefighter 2 for truck 111 switched off the fireground channel. They've now left that fireground channel. And if I was on a P25 trunk system, I could even tell what talk group that firefighter went to. So I know where to go to get them and call them. They tell them to get back on the white fireground. Similarly, if they turn their radio off, I get an indication that the radio's been powered down. And now if I'm trying to call officer of engine 114 and they're not calling me back, I have an indication of why that is, because he turned his radio off. What's very powerful for this solution are the tactical alerts. I have the group alerts and the individual alerts. And so if I want to send out a roll call to every one of my firefighters and have them respond back with an acknowledgement, I simply pull up that screen, hit the roll call button, and hit issue alert. And when that goes out, it will go to all the responders immediately at the same time. They will play out the roll call message at full volume over the radio speaker, blink the background light or the remote speaker mic light, and let the responder know that they have a message that just came to them from command. And for their part, to acknowledge the message, they simply press and release the push to talk button, and the acknowledgement goes back to the command officer. So I'm going to go ahead and issue the alert.
Roll call requested.
And then I'm going to start to acknowledge them.
Roll call requested.
And so I could see here, the driver of engine 114 has not acknowledged the alert because they're incapacitated or otherwise not able to get it. As an incident commander, I know if all my responders got the request for the roll call or not. I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge this last guy here. And so behind the scenes, using data, I'm able to figure out that all my responders picked up the roll call and did not tie up any additional resources on the trunk system or on the conventional channel. Similarly, I could send it to an individual responder, for instance, to go to rehab. I could just send it to one radio, and then I can acknowledge it just from that one radio. Real quick, because I know I'm running out of time, I'm just going to show one other view of this, the table view, where I can see the battery level of all my radios. So as an incident commander, I know, does every firefighter have a full battery or not? And long duration incidents, which are unfortunately common out in California, you could now tell over time if I need to start getting radios with fresh batteries, because they're eventually going to not be able to communicate. And so at a very high level, and I didn't even touch on all of the features, but I know we wanted to give enough time for Q&A in this session. This is what the personnel accountability solution looks like. So it's just another tool in the toolbox for public safety using the power of their two-way radio system. So Dave, I'm going to turn it back over to you and we'll go into Q&A.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Andy. But any questions so far? We kind of went through a lot of things quickly, but does anyone